Hello, my name is Teresa Talia, and this is my mother.
Hello.
She is the person in my title of my book that is called Eternal Humans and the Finite Gods, How an Ex-Prophet and I Left Religion and Discovered Universes Beyond and Within. This video will talk a bit about our progression from the Catholic Church to the United Pentecostal Church, which is a fundamentalist Christian church, and then out of religion altogether. We always wanted to find what the truth was, if there really was a real, amazing, perfect God. So this was our journey all the way through that, so I documented it in my book. In this video, we'll just talk about the key areas of how we progressed. So, when you were 20 years old, you experienced a so-called baptism by fire in your Catholic church. So please explain that situation and how it made you feel.
Oh my goodness. I attended a prayer meeting and I was on a trip, and I felt a very big desire and urge to belong since I didn't know anyone. So I decided to go to this Catholic prayer meeting in the middle of town. I walked in and it was very different. The energy was different. It was heightened and it was new and exciting. And I said, oh, I want some of that. And they all looked at me and they didn't know who I was. They said, well, come on over here and sit in this chair. They surrounded my chair, and I said, what am I supposed to do? And just sit there. They'd start laying hands on my head and on my shoulders, and they started speaking different languages and chanting, and they said, open mouth. And I go, why? You're going to be receiving a gift. And I opened my mouth, and all of a sudden, I felt on fire. My whole body was on fire, and I didn't know what happened. I was scared. I didn't know what to expect. And they said, you can start speaking in another language. And I tried, and I was using my mind, and I said, I don't know how to do this. I really don't. Well, it'll come. So I finished the meeting with these ladies and went my merry way and didn't know what to think of this.
Soon afterwards, you saw some words printed across your forehead. Do you think that was your first type of memorable experience since the baptism by fire, that something started more personally happening to you?
Yes. I did have a job, and I did want to talk to the supervisor on the job, and I had no idea, how to reach him. And all of a sudden, while I was working, I saw these numbers, and I was asking myself, when is this guy going to come and talk to me? And all of a sudden, I see this time frame, and I go, wow, where's that coming from? And it was really clear and precise, and lo and behold, here comes this gentleman. He said he was a supervisor, and he came right at the time that I saw on my forehead.
At 10:30 a.m.?
At 10:30 a.m. It was scary. I said, what's going on? I said.
And so over time, what types of abilities did you have in the spiritual sense?
In the spiritual sense, I started out with the words across my head.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that I started hearing voices that were giving commands and telling me what I should be doing. And I go, where is this coming from? I really didn't know. I was pretty alone.
Well, didn't you feel like it was a God? I mean, didn't it communicate something, or was it still very elementary at that stage?
It was a godlike command. It was telling me it loved me, and it was I was its child, and it wanted to tell me what I needed to do, but he wanted me to start writing these things down. I started getting automatic writing abilities, which I didn't even think of these words. It started coming through me on paper, and that was another thing that I wasn't too sure of. I was scared about that. Other abilities that I had is that I could see interdimensionally. My vision started expanding and going beyond what I see before me, and I could see all kinds of creatures and things that I didn't even know what those were, and I didn't understand that ability at all. I did acquire speaking in different tongues, which was with the help of the group that I went to see off and on, and started giving me more introspection into what my life was going to be like, and I felt I had no control.
Well, with that though, when you were a devout Catholic, didn't you want the no control in a way? Because the Bible teaches to be a servant to God and to be his mouthpiece, his walking hands and feet.
That was true. That was true. I really believe that God was working through me and using my hands and my feet for his work.
So what was really the predominant feeling? Fear or excitement, or was it kind of a mix?
It was a mix, but it felt like I had no control over my thinking, my ability to do anything. I felt like I was a robot. I felt that was happening, and I didn't know what to do about it. I really didn't know.
So a lot of people with these prophetic abilities, when they write down messages, they say, oh, this is God speaking through me, and everyone listen to his message, and this is very important. And did you share it with many people? Did you declare it, or did you kind of just stay personal?
I stayed personal for a couple of years because I had no one to share it with, and I didn't believe that people would listen to me.
Even your own prayer group?
The prayer group, no. I didn't see them that often because we were far away, but I did try to connect with them, but
You were in Germany at the time, so it was still like a foreign type of place.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also had family life, and I was busy, and I tried to do my everyday goings on, but I felt like I was being pulled back to write these directions and instructions about what I was supposed to do every day, and it was pretty it didn't leave much room for me to think for myself.
So with some of the instructions, if you can try to remember, to pray this, do this, and
pray this, do that, take a walk, I want to show you something. You could see many of the places we went and stuff. I could feel the negativity where I was going through. We took trips. I was getting more sensitivities and more inner knowing was coming through in time. Yet I was still being directed and controlled to do daily goings on with my life. And I would write down many notes and stuff and things to remind me that, I'm still doing God's work. I still am a Catholic, and I still believe this, and I must be doing the right thing.
So when you came back to the U.S. and had your actual real family life with your kids, did anything at all significant change much when you were still in the Catholic Church? Because obviously you went to a different Catholic church and you had this ability already, so it's
I was more introspective.
Yeah.
Very introspective. I started attending the charismatic prayer groups, speaking in tongues a lot. I was just in that mode. And it was the way I led my life for a while because I still believed in the Catholic religion and what it taught in its teachings and being directed by God.
Well, I know that when I was 13, I think that was the first time I got an actual prophecy from you. I was really, really depressed then. And of course, I was actually a really dutiful, serious Catholic. I read the Bible a lot, got confirmed. I was like one of the only people in my confirmation classes who took it seriously because I wanted to know the truth that they said they had. So yeah, you got me prophecies to boost my spirits. If that's the right word. To boost myself. And some, they were more about the goings on of the day, where I was like obsessed over some band member, and
I remember.
Yeah, and it was hard, and the message wasn't even that optimistic. They said, no, you won't meet this man, but follow me and I'll give you someone else, and da-da-da. And of course, over time, I didn't really meet someone else. Oh, never mind. That didn't work out, but I have a better plan, another plan. And these were the messages I got to keep me going, to keep me hopeful, have faith, direct me to read Bible passages. So your prophecies were hand in hand with the Bible. They expounded upon some things. They directed to read scriptures, pray even to Mary while we were in the Catholic Church.
Right.
We'll call upon certain angel names. That felt a little strange to me. I remember one, and I probably shouldn't say its name. I never called upon it because it felt weird, but I still called upon Mary. Until then, I got really sick. And then things started. That's when I was entering college, and I wanted something more. I felt like the Catholic Church wasn't really doing it for me, so I started branching out to more Protestantism. And we had some arguments, but I always felt that I could still reach you somehow. I mean, usually the religious thing is like this big divisive thing with people, but you and I always had a deeper connection, a deeper love through everything.
Yes, we did.
And so how did the shift happen in you from the Catholic Church to the Protestant Church?
Or the UPC?
Those. Yeah, UPC.
Well, in the beginning, I was always trying to protect you and get you help because you were sick. And I, as a mother, wanted the best for you, wanted to try everything that I could to get the answers that we needed. And the Catholic Church was not providing them. I was not satisfied. I thought it was time to make the shift to something else, or some other religion that maybe gave us more promise, gave us more answers.
More emotionalism, more hope, more woo!
It totally was more emotionalism.
That's not the Catholic Church.
But it was more lively than the Catholic Church and the masses were,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I needed that. Maybe you needed that too. We don't know, but we went on another path. We kept going, and to find the truth and to find what would satisfy us inside.
So you got direction though too. To even move cities to.
I did get some direction, and I felt that I was willing to try anything at that point and just trust in what I was getting. And of course, here we were, and yes, this is where it put us.
And that was very interesting and almost funny because you brought your husband and my half brother to church as Catholics, and we were kind of new, but we were still getting used to it. And they were just like this,
all our
praising,
and
people
jumping around and enjoying ourselves, and they're sitting there like this on the pew, wondering, do we want to be here or not? And
they came to support us.
And then they had the open baptism with everybody there, and we got baptized. I got baptized many, many times.
Actually, we skipped around United Pentecostal churches, and I wrote about this in the book because you were getting lots of different direction at the same time. It's like, okay, with all my sensitivities and then her getting prophecies, if there'd be something kind of off in the church, like I would talk to pastors because I treat them like equals. I thought this was a church. That was one of the good things about the Catholic Church, I think, because you could talk to the priest. I remember talking to one when I was younger, and he said, basically told me, well, yeah, I don't know everything, and he was pretty humble. The United Pentecostal Church pastors, on the other hand, I feel like they had more of an air about them. We are the chosen,
more stoic.
Yeah, we are the men of God, and we come first, then comes the church, and so the man's over the woman. They took the Bible very literally. So here I was, this young woman, coming up to the pastor, well, I'm sick, and I have these sensitivities, and I'm seeing these scriptures, and I want to understand, I've had lots of faith, so why haven't I gotten better? And one of the pastors even said to me, no, you must not have that faith. And I said right to his face, yes, I do. I knew it. Like, you and I were very serious. And did you go to that meeting with me? I didn't know that
Yes.
you did. Oh,
I went everywhere with you.
well,
We went together.
because I was so like direct with him.
Right.
And then he actually looked at me. He's like, well, I don't know what else to say then. But that was one thing. So we kind of went. You got prophecy saying, okay, well, this pastor or this church has some problems. I'm saying it very delicately because some of yours were kind of fire and brimstone-y, like the pastors would get. And there were times even when you got prophecies to the pastors, like the big pastors of the area.
Yes.
And
Yes. I was directed to do that.
yeah, and we both were like, because first I tried the normal way. I contacted him and said, hey, I'll say it. It's a sexist church, and I kept saying, I don't feel comfortable wearing dresses all the time, having super long hair all the time. I feel like I'm more of a man. I feel like I'm fighting a war. I see visions of myself like in the ground, working, fighting and trying to find this truth and find what's good, apart from all of the constrictions and the mess. And so I actually wrote him that letter, and he never wrote back.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, well, what do we do? How do we talk to them? And then here God comes through you.
Right.
Oh no, I have some of the many messages here. It's pretty intense, actually.
I see them all together. They are massive.
Well, I actually think that this is possibly maybe 1/3 of all of them we've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom ones are the ones that we aren't really liking right now. We can sense the energy, and unfortunately I had to put these in my book to show you what they said, and you can feel the energy off of them. And you just even read a couple before this, and she got sick.
Right.
She was sitting down with
Sitting
stomach.
there, and I go, I don't feel so good.
So these are the handwritten ones that she would get. The automatic writing ones. I'm like shaking, going through them. Oh, here's one, just a random one, October 22nd, 2002, 8 a.m. My dearest child, oh, how I love thee. You have been very depressed in the last few days, but dry your tears, child. You are asking for more direction, so I will give it to you. Move to a new location. Oh, this is perfect. For where you live now will interfere with your walk with me. Oh, yeah, okay, well, this was a direction with something else in my life. This wasn't about the church, but basically we would get the messages saying, go to this church, go to that church, because you're not getting it here now. You will hear, child. You will heal, child, as time goes on. Be a friend and companion to your other friend, and but yeah, you got a pretty strong prophecy that I put in the book. I don't know if I put the exact one to the actual pastor at the end. So after we were kind of jumping around a few churches, because each one wasn't working on its own special way, this pastor then, yeah, do you want to tell how it happened? Because you were with me when we went. Yeah, so she sent the prophecy to him. You mailed it, right?
Well, there were a couple. You mean the last
the one at the Rock?
Oh, okay. Yes, I sent it to them. And we decided one day to attend the service.
Yeah, because we kept going to church still.
We kept going to church. We were emotionally praising going through the service, praising with the music, and getting into the groove, I guess, with what everybody was doing. And the pastor had sent two of his
henchmen.
You could call it henchmen, or two of his assistants down to where we were, and actually said we had to go. We had to leave. And I actually did see in visionary that it was an evil spirit that was standing in front of us. That's why I stopped.
Oh, because I was just a wreck. I was getting emotional. I said,
right.
Please, let's stay. We want to be here. We want to learn.
It's an evil spirit. And I said that's why we should go.
And so we went to the foyer, and that's when they divulged more, that the pastor doesn't think that you're suitable for this church or something.
Right.
And I said, but no, please. And I was pleading. And then actually these people almost started feeling sorry. It's like, they're like, look, we don't know. We're just going on pastor's orders.
Right.
And if only they wouldn't do that. If only they'd hear us. But it then clicked to us after that the previous night, it was the previous service that we went to, that he started preaching about witches in the church and women
Right.
saying things and standing up, and we're like, what? And we looked at each other, we're like, huh? And there you go. And so we put two and two together, there you go. And we're like, what?
Right.
How could we be witches? We're not doing anything. I just remember how devastated and attacked I felt for just being me and genuine, and I know you.
Mm-hmm.
And you just did what you were told to do as well.
Right.
You didn't make any of this up. We already knew. We're like, uh-oh, but okay,
Mm-hmm.
God's telling us to do it, okay. We never once were uppity women. We were just women, people, just like men are people, and we just were people. So with that, we went to a couple, other churches, and it came down to just a whole thing to where then we found this, what was he called? Evangelist. And each type of, and then he gave like a different slant on the Christian religion, with Jesus and God being one, and I wrote about the different versions of Christian belief in the book. First, between Trinitarianism, duality, and then the full oneness. So that's pretty good to explain all that. This was the last straw with this evangelist. He treated us like family. Because he started off small. He said, God, brought me to you too, and this all worked out for the right reason, as being at this church the last time. Because we were going to leave at that last church too. It was so loud. It was a small building, and they always felt the need to blast music to where you're basically deaf, or everything's shaking in your body, and being energetically sensitive and sick. And also not understanding why we have to yell to God if God's in the midst of us. And then, it was a huge turnoff. It was an assault on my being. So I actually pleaded with that last pastor too, and he's like, basically said, no, this is what we did. And that's when Mom and I were like, we had no choice. We had to leave, and we didn't know where to go. And that's when the evangelist came. Perfect timing. Yay. Go God, yay, God brought that to happen. And he even said in the prophecy, yay, we got baptized a few more times because of the different ways of knowing Jesus and God. We had to get baptized in the right belief each time. So now I'm like, yes, we finally have it all right after all of these different steps, and it's like we finally found the real truth now. Yay, I'm going to be healed. Jesus is God. I have, His flesh upon me, His spirit in me. I'm just all new. Yay! I had all the faith. It wasn't happening, but I had faith, and all the prophecies were like, oh, it's going to happen. Oh, and this is one reason why after the next prophecy didn't work out, then the next prophecy was like, oh, well, yeah, because there's some reason why. But the next one will say that you will be healed, and then
True. Yes.
So anyway, I remember putting together a Bible study to show that evangelist pastor who became our pastor, and it talked about the roles of women, how they pretty much, I don't know if the roles, but the women are pretty much equal, and I had like 3 pages of things, and then I brought it to him, and he rejected it. and we got in a little verbal disagreement, and that's when he basically called me the child of the devil.
Oh.
And I left crying, and you were still there. And I know it was hard for you to leave the church because you've always wanted to belong somewhere. And it was easier for me to go because I've always felt different. But of course I still wanted a community.
True.
So you stayed, and I was in the car crying, and I honestly didn't know how soon you'd come out. I was worried that you would, choose the church over your daughter because of your abilities and God directing you. And we even had many arguments when God would tell you one thing when I was saying something else.
Yes.
Even though you were open to me and you were even agreeing with me.
Yes.
But it was just us two, and you still were on this other side going, And I watched your body language, and I'm like, what, Mom? And do you remember something?
Sometimes it would say, just listen to your daughter.
Yeah, sometimes it would, and that was
and
nice.
other times you should listen to what I say, because I'm your God. I'm directing you.
It created some disagreements between us. So back to that last day of church ever for me,
Sure.
when I was in the car wondering what was going on in you.
I didn't like how he treated you. I trusted you. I knew that what he was getting off on a tangent on was probably more religious and more something that we were trying to not get involved in, to tell you the truth. He was talking about the phases of the moon and how we're supposed to do things according to the Jewish
it was more. He was becoming more Jewish. Back to the whole Yahweh thing, Yahweh, Yahshua, and that's perfectly valid because he was tying it together. But if you really go into the Old Testament, it is so restrictive and so demeaning toward women that I'm just like, well, where are you now? What law?
And he was still trying to hang on to the hierarchy.
Yeah.
I didn't like what he was saying, and I told him, you were not a devil. You were not any of those things, and I didn't plan to come back. So I left, and I didn't go back.
Yeah, it took maybe up to 2 minutes.
Didn't take me any time at all.
And we cried, and we went home, and we just sat and stared, and just were like, well, we feel empty. We don't know what to do.
Limbo state. We didn't know where to go, what to do next. And then we sort of had a freeing feeling that we weren't connected to a religious sect of any kind at this point, and now we have to find our own way and the truth the way we see it.
What's frustrating, though, is that then your prophecies, we started feeling like they were trying to set us up now, like you as the new type of leader, prophet person. You got to always have some leader and authority in this work. And after seeing the pattern of all these years, and how, I'm leading you here for some reason, and then here, but now I'm really going to show you the truth. And that's how it happened towards the end when it was just us, because we started breaking through. And then I said, and by the way, this was actually always my plan. And we're like, what? So when it started getting there, we were really, really questioning then. Like, we were hungry. We're just like, we're going to research the heck out of everything. We're going to research the origins of Judaism, of Hebrew, of the church, of,
Adam and Eve, everything. Back to creation, at the beginning of creation.
I spent, nights just dissecting the Bible and looking at the time frames and reading heathen books from the library, saying that these are myths. And so this can be a really long story, but we got into inevitably some New Age thoughts and beliefs because that's the next supposed step. But nothing really resonated with us, and we just kept feeling like all of it is entity controlled. It's always some channeler, some prophet, something where we're being fed, we're being told what to say. Where is the true authenticity? We were already doubting what was with you, and rightfully so. But I didn't doubt you.
That's what was talking, or I was the mouthpiece.
But the problem is, you started doubting yourself. You were cut pretty low. I mean, you were really, really controlled.
Yes.
And it made you feel like insecure, like it's almost like you'd be chastened. Because can you explain how some of that was? Like, you'd even get woken up at night with your name being called.
I was called by name all the time, day and night. Wake up, I've got to give you a message. I couldn't sleep. I was always hearing voices. It was maddening. It really was.
It was what?
Maddening.
Maddening.
And so I realized that and they were going through different names. They would proclaim who they were. Grand intellect.
Oh, no, okay. So this was after the original phase of it just being Jesus, God, and then after we came out, then she got lots of different entity names and God names coming to her because we were so open, and that was a bit interesting.
It's like we would have one name for a period of time, and then someone else would scoot over. It's my turn.
Well, because we started questioning, we never let it go. It's like, here I was. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to figure this out, because if it's claiming to be God, it's claiming to be this. Some were even claiming to be not entities at all, when all their descriptions were that of an entity, of a being, a finite being,
or a consciousness,
or
a group.
Well, they claimed that, but
Yes.
when they explained it more, no.
No.
So that's when it was hard, because we were so open that I think they took advantage of that.
Yes, I agree.
And that's where I know it got maddening. But you were always like your entire adulthood was taken over. So it's like, here you were used to being somewhat obedient, and I think you're just naturally open. It's like you have something pure about you where you do want to know truth, and if something is presenting itself, then you're like, well, I'm not going to just completely shut it out. I'm going to try to, explore it a little more.
I did that. But I believe that through the dreams that I had, whatever consciousness was beyond all of the entities and all of the channelings, not channelings, but communications that I got that was funneling through me.
Prophecies.
Through
you
the
weren't
frequencies.
taken over, except
No.
for just a few rare times you were, and I witnessed some of that, and that was pretty creepy. You were like freaking out when that happened.
Yeah, well, I had no control.
Yeah.
Through my dreams, I really had to discern. I had to wake up enough, and sometimes I couldn't wake up. I was just going through it, and was getting lots of messages through my dreams as well, and communications. And if it was for a person or for a congregation, I had to get up during the night and write it down, no matter what I was half asleep or not. So I've had many years of no sleep. And so, it was maddening to me. And after all this time, getting to the place where truth lay, and I got to hit ground, bottom ground.
Do you want to explain that dream?
Yeah, I had a dream that I felt like I was going way down deep inside my core, down to a pure dry ground. I was swimming through water, through layers in myself to the bottom, and it was dry, and I stood there and I saw a gate, and I saw a sandal on the bottom of the gate on the ground, and I was coming out of religion, and it came to me that it was Jesus' sandal that was being left behind. I was leaving behind all the religion and all the things that I had experienced in my life, and I was coming to know some new truth and new beautiful purity beyond all of the religion.
And you didn't really see the Jesus stuff after that?
That was the end of it. It was like I closed a door, or went through a door and left it behind. felt a relief inside. I felt like a freedom. And I just want to let the viewers know that there is life and love and freedom and truth beyond all of the religion and all of the connections that are made in this world. There is truth. And to find it, look for it. Because if you do look for it and you are sincere and pure in your intent, you will find more than you had anticipated you would find.
So after that, it was interesting because my mom always had this type of communicative ability, but with that dream, it became more her doing it. It became more you doing it. It's like I know that there is a stage where we started asking questions directly. So with the in-between stage, like after we left the actual Christian religion to before we really became free with all the entities coming through, when you would write stuff, was it more than just telling you things and then you just write it down? More of like a communication thing?
But with entities, you mean?
Passing themselves off as God.
It was still using automatic writing. It still was.
So the grand intellect, the grand master, was still automatic writing. So you'd ask, you'd wait, and then
infinite consciousness was another one.
Infinite
awareness. There were cosmic awareness.
Cosmic awareness, infinite awareness.
Love source.
Well, that was a little iffy on that one. That was interesting because it was something a little better, but the entities had a slant on that. Yeah, I'm happy with what I've done in this part of the book, especially with trying to decipher the different entity groups and their tactics and their language, and really getting to the bottom of what they are specifically. Because they say one thing, because they are different beings than we are, and they can pass themselves off in any way they want, because we won't really know. But when you get enough information about it, we can know. We can determine. We can use our good sense, our logic, and compare, contrast, figure it out. But I think the main problem is that we don't really think to question. We don't really think to ask, because we have been conditioned since birth to feel unempowered, small, less than. There's always someone that knows better than we do, and you don't question. You just learn or you follow. And even writing some things with my book, after we've broken free and explored more and more, we were always exploring so many things. There's so much to learn. I had to check that in myself. I'm like, wow, I didn't even think to question certain things either in my first edition. And it like hit me where I was just like, wow, I could have easily just said, there was something a little off here. I could have just said, let me investigate that, but I didn't even think to. I can't believe the layer of delusion that we've been conditioned to have.
Yes.
And then when I thought about it, I'm like, that's really easy to just think about it. But it almost took this huge motivation, confidence, a push to go past that little wall in me. It's like, I think maybe we become unconsciously or consciously afraid. Just so much bondage wrapped up in this.
That's generally being held back and being just imprisoned in a world that has negative energy that holds you in a place where you can't expand, you can't move, and you can't even think.
You were a perfect example of that, too. I lived with this. I lived to see how my mom was, and I'm just so grateful that we walked hand in hand together. Not always easily. It wasn't easy, but we somehow made it. But it was a real struggle.
Yes.
And you're totally right when it comes to that small feeling, because now where I feel now with the knowledge that we have now, I feel like big. I feel bigger. I feel open. I feel like there's space.
Yes, space.
And my whole life I've been put down by people as well, saying, you're too intense, you're too much, you're too this.
Yeah.
You know, get down to my level because this makes me uncomfortable. But they wouldn't say that. They wouldn't admit that they're feeling uncomfortable. They would just say, look at you, you're weird, you're different. And I struggle with my own confidence still, but I've worked hard and I'm still working at it, but now that I know we're outside of that energetic claw, this whole, my mom would see claws on me. You would see claws in your vision.
Churches.
Yeah, she would see like all these strange visions. I'm like, Mom, I'm having kind of a headache right now. And she was like, oh, well, by the way, there's a claw in your head right now. I'm like, oh, well, I get this off of me.
In there.
Get this off, you know.
True.
And so with this coming to dry ground, there was a sense of peace and openness.
Yes.
And that's when, after that, you sense you started getting to a pure consciousness. It still took a while navigating through all of these entity interferences, but something started feeling more genuine.
Yes, I did. And I felt more at peace inside. I didn't feel restricted. I didn't feel like I was. I should tell you that I went through different veils in the steps to find out where the truth was and to where the dry ground was. I went through veils of restrictions, I would call them. I actually felt with the pure energy that I touched base with, I did not have to feel afraid of hearing any voices anymore, being told what to do, commanded to do things, instructed, be a part, go here, go there, to do religious work or be God's hands and feet. I had none of that. It left when I left Jesus behind.
So it took a little while to start learning about this pure energy because we were conditioned to think in terms of hierarchy and all-knowing, all-powerful, all-perfect type of being as God, when this was something different. This was before all that. This was something in a pure state. And it was way beyond that, what we could comprehend, so we were working toward it in our awareness. And it's just a different way of operating. In the church, in the New Age stuff, people want to be told in elaborate, detailed things, because they're entities like us, talking, sharing things, their knowledge.
They're very visual too.
And
they need to see
and
diagrams. They need to see pictures to explain things to them.
Yeah. But I'm talking about the entity communications.
Okay.
So when it came to this new energy consciousness, it first called itself all that is, and so we didn't understand that, because what we found with all that is was all the New Age interpretations that put everything together, like the omni thing. Like there's no duality, no polarity, everything's together, good and bad. And we're like, well, that's not how we're sensing it. That's not what we know truth and goodness to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's pure. It doesn't have the mix. It's not bad. Why are these the only options that are out there? Why is this the only stuff that's being taught? I mean, people know intuitively, we talk on a day-to-day basis that there should be, love and safety and, goodness and, something on a pure level. Like I seem to want that. So why are we not being taught this? Because even the God character in church, it's supposed to be perfect and wonderful, but he also has all his emotions and anger and killing and all these issues too. And I'm just like, well, that's not really pure to me. So when it came to this investigation, we explored it more and more and more, and it was just a different way of learning how to be and rediscovering really who we are inside. And that took a lot for you, especially because you weren't really allowed to have yourself. And so with this new energy sense that you had, how did you work with it, with you, with going deeper, with having that type of a relationship with something pure?
It was different. It was definitely different. Everything else was outward. And this was inward. And I was pretty much a meditative, introverted person while I was growing up, just in my teens and stuff, and when I was young. And as I got older, I realized that going inside myself, things are changing. I was able to connect with frequencies. I was having a direct frequency communication with this pure energy, and it was actually a consciousness. It would talk back. It would communicate. If I asked it a question, what are you? I mean, who are you? Are you an entity? You would say no.
Well, explain how it would
respond to me. It was like originally a river of energy flowing through me in my inner self. When I saw this energy, and the frequency was pretty electrifying at times. It was like, you would just put the letters out there, either one by one to answer me, or in like sparkly letters, or it's hard to explain. Little fire letters, just, and then it dissipate, and it was all over inside. It was I get a glowing feeling when it was trying to communicate with me from way down deep. But it wasn't, all that is was not moving. It was not doing anything. It was stationary, but it had a flow of communication to other levels in me that would actually hadn't revealed themselves till late, and it was we're giving the conscious communications through it to my consciousness, and I was able to understand what it wanted to say.
So I show how the different stages were with how she first got to know this energy to now in the book. So now it's really fast how you get in touch with it, right? You don't necessarily see a glowing, do you? Because I know that those are your layers that it communicates to.
Well, when I start out, I close my eyes and I said, all that is, I call it the pure essence, which is its most recent description, because that's what it wants to go by. I wanted it to, give me more direct communications through itself, but it actually came through a bridge. The bridge carried its communication to me, and that I didn't know about. I knew there was a little vision I had about a little clouding, like a little cloud that was sort of going like a suspension to me, and I realized that what is that? That's in the all that is pure essence was further away in the distance, and I go, okay, what is this? Is this an extension of itself? Is this actually giving me the information, just be the messenger of what the all that is pure essence wants to communicate to me? And it did bring it in fire letters to me.
Yeah, it's interesting because the further we learned about this stuff, there are so many steps in realization to understand all these levels, and I thankfully was able to discern and identify many of them for my book. Instead of just asking directly about, hey, what's this, what's that, it would reply in short sentences or words. It's not an entity to be very descriptive. So we're like, okay, well, what framework do we have to work off of then to then get more precise answers? So we would have to ask questions off of the most, I guess, sensible things that we find here. Like we've used information from Ashayana Dean's work that some didn't fully resonate, and we communicated why. And a lot of this is a lot of my questions, trying to understand, what are these levels. And there's even, when I mentioned in my last video about the 4 paradigms of creation, I said that there's some grid formations. And the Ashayana Dean stuff mentions a 12 grid, but she also says there's 15 dimensions. Well, how can 15 dimensions be in only a 12-dimensional type of grid? And should I divulge this now or not?
Well, you could just say we found out that there were 15.
Well, then that is divulging it. we asked questions. This probably took about 2 weeks of investigation on just one little part of the book, where I would have to use some of my knowledge and intuition and create different grids and say, is this more accurate? Is this accurate? Which one's accurate? And all that is the pure essence would give like little messages or little like
drawings.
Some drawings for you, but not really precise or elaborate, because it's this pure essence way beyond.
Right.
And you had all the bridges. So we learned that there's levels of the beyond in us, but those are just aspects of those levels. We're not literally beyond. There's like the family members, the pre-energies, the energies that are
right.
part of our makeup but not necessarily actualized. And then that bridge that you saw, we got the name for it, and I guess I'll just say it.
Aya.
Aya. E-I-A.
E-I-A.
And it's its own consciousness. We always went back to the all that is the pure essence because we wanted to find that beginning state, that
origin,
ultimate origin, and we want to understand what that was. And what we've understood is that it's not at all like that God everything. It's just a pure, simple origin state, and how it exuded from itself to, I guess, create other levels, but it didn't create at the same time because it doesn't have vibration.
It had intent to create.
It has intent, and then the desire, and then things just kind of folded out. And then there's Aya, which is the first pre-filled frequency, and then that is the one that's like, ooh, now I can really move. I'm going to communicate that, and that's the bridge. And we feel it differently than the all that is the pure essence.
It actually expands the communication from the all it is, pure essence. And when it expands in me, it just blows it out there, and I can, okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, and so that is actually a level still before us, but because it has that pre-movement, that is like the imprint in us. And then our core level starts, and the outer and then inner kind of coincide in some way, and that's pretty trippy how it can all fit together. And I did my best to explain that in the book, but it took so much investigation. And so yes, I showed the 15-dimensional Cathar grid in it, a gridded pattern that energy matter can form upon for some structure, but that was also later on in the inner, deeper dimensional, non-dimensional, before that cosmos type thing realm, before cosmos, however you want to say it, because there's so many different realms. So back to this then. When we get in touch with that pure energy, we still prefer to go directly to the all that is the pure essence, because it covers all those, it's right to the beginning, so it goes through the necessary levels, so we're covering it. And so I is there, and our core is there, and then our original self, right now, higher self, whatever, is there, and we're here. So all of this, it's like it is pretty much a direct pathway. So now, with our communication with the all that is, you want to explain your process getting to it? Because mine's different because I don't have your abilities. So if you want to explain
how to get to
how you ask, because you continue to ask questions to it for some clarification,
Yes.
and since it's not really detailed, then sometimes you might even ask, Aya a couple things, or you might ask even, the core higher self, or now.
Well, I do. I use I do name myself as my higher self.
Yeah.
And I do go through that avenue.
Yeah, of
because
course,
the
you have to.
density, our bodies are much more dense, and it isn't, I don't believe, able to get a free, direct path to the all that is pure essence in that way.
Yeah.
So I do go through that higher self.
Well, to elaborate really quickly, to the religious-minded community, that can just be seen as like a soul, your soul, your higher density being that resides within you. It's not something floating around, divided up. It's literally who we are inside, but that is also that being that feels bigger. It's more than what we've been compacted into here. It feels more.
Opens.
And so once we came out of religion, we started literally feeling that. Even though our body's the same, our body almost felt bigger. Doesn't it almost feel
Yes.
bigger in it? Because we're experiencing more of our true energy in fullness. It's wonderful.
Feels really good. Yeah, it just feels so free, and I know. You take a deep breath and let it go.
I know.
Yeah.
And it also
feel
feels
restricted.
innocent in a way too. It feels just pure and wonderful. And we've gotten to know our individual selves through this. And I explain a lot more in the book too. So I don't want to give away too much
Sure.
because it takes a long time to come out of that religious mentality. And it's even scary, and you don't really know what to believe. So it can be almost, I don't want to say too much to handle at once, but if you really, really want to know, if you have that really deep burning desire to really
Yes.
know yourself, you'll just go and you'll just take it in. You'll be like, all right, I'll ponder that. All right, I'm not going to be afraid. All right, that's pretty much what we had to do. We're like, all
That's
right.
what we had to do.
Like,
Mhm.
we didn't believe in so much because we were hardcore Christians. So, but we just got open to it. We're like, all right, there's something more. I'll just
So much open and so
do
much
it.
out there that we haven't experienced. So let's experience
yeah.
it.
But, well, let's not be so closed-minded, because obviously that wasn't working for us either.
No.
I don't like that
Not for
either.
me. Oh,
So-
so anyway, I do, as I said before, go into myself. I get in a quiet place, close my eyes, and I try to get in a meditative state, but I don't usher in entities. I do not pray or worship anything that is beyond myself or my higher self. And I go straight to the all that is pure essence, because I know I have that inner knowing inside that resonates on a frequency level, these levels within my inner core, and I light them up. And I just ask what I need to ask. It isn't like when I get writings or anything that I'm being forced to write anything for anyone. It is just coming through me in a flowing desire to write what the intent is.
You see the actual letters.
I actually see.
Where are they? Like in your third eye?
No, actually, I don't see it here all the time. It goes on paper. It goes through me on paper. What it is, it's like it's a one. I'm all.
Energies?
The energies and the frequencies just go through me, and
But
I
you
just
still see
write
the
it.
letters, don't you? I mean,
I
there's
see.
still some.
I do see some, but I don't see it first before I write it down. It's become so fluid that I just write it straight on the paper.
I get so nervous talking about this stuff because people are quick to judge. Well, gosh, that sounds like automatic writing, or gosh, all that is a pure essence sounds like another god. And it's like, if you just kind of step back a bit and you see, well, there's all these religions out there anyways that talk about similar concepts. And so obviously there is something there. It's just how people frame it and how people box it up. So it is known that there is something beyond. There is something good, pure, or something. And it is known that there's different stages and levels. It's just when you start opening your mind and being more of who you are in your fullness, you can start seeing the differences. It's like you get a wider view. Like I feel like my vision's very broad.
Panorama.
And so I can organize, I can compartmentalize, I can see it all where it fits.
Mm-hmm.
So with this, it's like it never started automatic writing. It's not automatic
not with
either. It's like it built up to where, you know, it's like you were familiarizing yourself with it. It had the fire letters. It had this, and so
it's like a relationship.
And so now it's a consciousness.
It's a consciousness that I will write something down, and if I personally think it isn't going the way I should, I do question it.
Yeah.
And then it comes back, and we work it out together.
Yeah,
it's like a camaraderie type of thing, an actual living consciousness.
Yeah, and so it's like now because you've been doing this for a while and you're good at it. I attest to how good you are at it. It's become natural in you.
Second nature.
And so I can attest to that in myself when because I now know who I am inside. And I sense I'm more the energetic,
Playful.
Well, yes, I'm playful. But I also mean I'm more the energetic, right hand to you. I'm the complement. I'm the more complement to you. See more of the visions, and you see, you know, it a little differently than I do. And I don't have that open ability for visions, and I'm maybe even grateful for it, because who knows if I'd be too ungrounded.
Yes.
So with me, you know me.
But you've got the intuition, the knowing. You have the discernment. You know when it goes against your energy.
Yeah.
You got that.
So I
want some of that.
Develop that. I just think that
yes.
You've been just used to your ability.
Yes.
And
yes.
I have this ability where it feels direct. I feel that directness. She experiences it her way. I feel it, and so because I feel like I have a fast track to the all that is the pure essence. It's really fast.
Yes.
And so it can happen to me in just like under a second.
And I have to go through a step-by-step process, but it does go faster than it used to.
What do you mean that you have to go through step by step? Because it's still pretty quick.
Well, I also have to make sure that I prepare myself for interferences and anything that goes on. So I do a prep beforehand to make sure that I'm not being, because I have that ability to see entities and to tell them to go away or dispel whatever's encroaching on my space and what I'm doing. So it takes a little more time for me to prepare.
Well, I think that's actually true too, because when you're having questions, you're using more of your faculties.
Yes.
Your human faculties that can get more interferences.
Sure.
And so you do have to kind of set up things, because you answer questions for other people and you want it to be right.
True.
And so you have to shield and navigate through. And so when I talk about just me on a personal level and our own personal stuff, without even being aware of our outer environment and helping other people, it goes straight. It's just so fast for me, and I can just go and expand out, and I feel it. And I love it. And it's like more, through here. And my mom and I'm talking to camera, so I'm talking to you too. So you and I have been making a point to connect on a daily basis, and it's wonderful because it's so easy to get distracted and settled into just that energy, and that it's like many things here and their electronic nature and just entertainment nature and stuff. Just it's heavy.
Yes.
And people can just kind of settle into it, and if you walk around and people don't care as much, and they're like, well, why should I care? It's just, I feel when I'm shrinking down and becoming more small again.
So many distractions.
So sometimes it affects even me. It affects it affects us. So we make a point to connect and say, come on, let's just connect. And we hold each other's hands and we just get back to our core together and help each other just be in that space together. And I feel it already. And so it just brings us back outside of that constricting energy. And I start feeling
pretty good.
really good. And so I'm really grateful to have you and to come this far. And is there anything else you want to say? I know I had some other questions, but I guess we just went on a roll.
I think we hit everything.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So how do you, I guess this is my last one, so how do you feel now in this knowledge and energy? I guess we already talked about it.
Yes, we did. Freer, and I think probably safe and secure in what I know about myself and who I am. I don't have to look outward. I really don't have to look out on what the world has to give me, because it won't provide what I need.
I feel like now
Fill me.
we have the tools in ourselves now.
Yes.
And I've struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder since I was a child, and it's very real what happens in the body, but this knowing, this connection, it allows me to deal with it a lot of the time. You know, I'm getting better and better. It's like when I feel now bigger in me and not so freaked out like I used to be, it just
Gives you the strength.
yeah, I see it all. That's why I'm pausing. I see it all in me, and it's just so wondrous to me to know that I can just work through it.
Yeah.
It's not overpowering me. I can overpower it now.
It's not impossible to reach that.
No, it's
Place.
not. Oh, I love it. Oh.
I know.
All right, so I guess we should stop the video now. And I hope that you enjoyed it and meeting my wonderful mother. And perhaps we'll make more videos in the future. We'll see how it goes. And if you have any questions or requests possibly, that maybe we can think about it and do a video in the future. What do you think?
Well, I think that would be good.
Okay, great.
That would be great.
Okay, so thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye. Have a great day.